Meeting will come to order. Boom. President's report. So one report that I would like to make for the public mostly, but also for the board to be aware of. In our April 29th meeting, we will be approving our final budget. And so in the spirit of doing so with presentations that we generally do, we would like to make clear to all members of the district and citizens of the town who are the taxpayers who wish to attend, you will have an opportunity at that meeting to come see the presentation and then ask questions regarding items concerning that budget. All right, so right after the fact. If there are any questions that we cannot answer at that time, we'll take down your information. We will get back to you. There are certain things that may not be immediately available, but in the spirit of so, I would like to make very clear that that is happening. We're also taking the liberty of sharing this on the appropriate social media outlets to make the district aware. And so this is an announcement regarding this so that all of the public who are listening here are aware. So tell your friends. It's exciting stuff, but it is important to the district, right? It is very important to us to have an informed taxpayer base who understand what we are doing here as a district when we are voting on and approving these budgets. You feel like I missed anything?
I would like to just add that we're going to do that at the 7 p.m. meeting.
Thank you.
And we are going to hold the
time
workshop
would be important to tell the people.
downstairs here in this room.
Yes.
We're going to relocate our workshop.
Thank you. So we will host that down here and it will be at 7 p.m. We are bypassing our normal structure for work and regular meetings. So we'll be down here in the auditorium for that purpose at 7 p.m. on April 29th.
Correct. And then at 8 p.m. we will have student recognition and our regular voting meeting. But the discussion, the presentation, the questions.
All at 7 p.m.
7 p.m. meeting.
Any comments or questions from the board regarding that? Wonderful. Superintendent's report, Mrs. Weldon.
Okay, thank you. I have a few announcements. The New Jersey Department of Education released the school performance reports last week, and we have them now up on our website. Much of the assessment data is information you have already seen in presentations by Dr. Morgan over the summer, fall, winter as scores were released. However, it does have a bit of other information about our district and our schools, and I encourage you to visit our website. You also may have received my letter, which has links right in there to get to the performance reports. We have a hold it,
Right there? Yep. There you go.
Perfect. Sorry. No problem. Okay, we have a group of students from our intermediate school working with Miss Edson, their teacher. We've had Miss Edson here before to recognize her for the work she does, environmental work that she does. They are working collaboratively with the Shade Tree Commission on a project for the municipality, and they are going to present to the town council this Thursday night. And I just wanted to make everyone aware of that was taking place. And I wish the students and the teacher the best of luck as they present out their project findings. Today, the New Jersey Association of School Administrators hosted their Women's Leadership Conference. I'm so proud to say that 6 of our female staff members were selected to be presenters at that conference and presented today. Amy Stekon, who's our special education coach, and Emily Keys, our supervisor of elementary special education, presented Shifting the Paradigm to Inclusive Practices. Michelle Shapiro and Cecilia Villa, 2 of our supervisors, presented Equity is a How, Not a What. And Miss Erin Leahy and Gina Hagerman presented Next Gen Learning, How AI and CTE Open Doors for All Students. I think that was wonderful that they were selected and that they went to the conference to represent our district so proudly. Excellent presentations here, and hopefully in the coming months we'll have them here to the Board of Ed to show you their presentations as well. And then we have a number of upcoming events at all of our schools. Tomorrow night at Wayside School, they have their spring chorus concert, 7 p.m. Tomorrow night, also, the OTHS Varsity Fashion Show is at 7 p.m. Thursday night, the OTHS Coffee House is at 6 p.m. in the cafeteria. TOIS is hosting its 5th and 6th grade social this Thursday night at 7 p.m. All district schools are closed next week, Monday through the following Monday, and we will reopen on April 22nd. And then as soon as we return, we have our district-wide innovation night, Wednesday, April 23rd at the intermediate school. It's district-wide event, but we host it at the intermediate school. It's at 6:30 p.m. And that Friday after we return, April 25th, Wayside is hosting its Wayside Masked Dancer at 6 p.m. at Wayside. So a lot of great events coming up. I encourage everybody to go out and see what our students are doing. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Walden. Our school business administrators report, Mr. Hastings.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the board is aware, we approved in February preschool construction grant. The bid is out for those projects. The preschool expansion grant will pay for 40% of the project cost. We're putting preschool bathrooms in let's say 6 classrooms that do not have those. We're doing 3 at Wanamassa, 2 at Wayside, and 1 at Dow. So that bid opening will be when we come back from our break, and we look forward to getting those projects underway as soon as we shut down for the summer and get those completed and ready to open when we reopen in September. I also want to touch on the budget. Started to get some emails today on our draft budget that was submitted to the county. So we're beginning to look at that and get some feedback on the budget. Administration is continuing to look at the budget and look at the expenditure side of our equation. We've talked about in previous meetings capital projects that we're not going to fund for next year, such as a heat curtain at the entrance of the high school or a new turf field for our stadium. We've looked at technology items that we're not going to fund going forward, including some large monitor requests, some large room ceiling mounted projectors and microphones that we're not going to fund for next year, and then some personnel reductions that we've talked about in terms of retirements and resignations and or vacant positions that we have now. We've looked at all these things to bring our expenditure side in line with what we approved in our tentative budget for the tax increase. The tax increase included a waiver as well for our healthcare costs and a portion of our banked capital. So the key was to look at the expenditures and see how we can reduce those to bring those in line. So we've looked over at 27 positions. 14 of those positions were already vacant. So those positions are not going to be filled. We looked at another 11 positions where we've had staff retire and or resign and evaluated those positions to see if those needed to be filled or if we had folks that could be transferred in perhaps where needed. So that's 14 vacant and 11 that are retirees and or resignations. So that leaves us with about 3 positions that may actually impact personnel. So again, we're looking at 27 spots, but only 3 positions that are actually potentially going to impact staff. Now it's only April, it's the beginning of April. We still haven't gotten all our retirements or resignations for the year. So we're looking hard at what our makeup is and where potentially we could help these people be placed so that they don't lose a position going into next school year. In looking at the breakdown of these positions, we're looking at about 2/3 of our professional staff versus 1/3 of our support staff. So again, we're working through these and trying to have minimal impact on staff. As President noted, our presentation for the public will be on April 29th. And it will reflect the same budget, tentative budget that was approved last month with no changes in terms of the request for taxes and on our revenue side. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings, for that comprehensive report. We appreciate that. Any comments or questions from the board regarding either report from the superintendent or the school business administrator? Wonderful. Public comment. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Public comment is not a question and answer session. Specific questions can be directed to the administration. The superintendent's contact information is on the podium and also available on the district website. We encourage you to contact her with any questions you may have. Public participation shall be governed by the following rules. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes in duration. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others have had an opportunity to speak on the same topic. The presiding officer may request any person to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. Since we do not have anyone from the public present, Mrs. Conway, is there anyone in the queue who would like to comment?
No, Mr. President, there are no commenters in the queue.
Thank you. We have no minutes. Okay, thank you. Just want to confirm. Personnel, Mrs. McGovern.
Sure, move to approve items 8.1 through 8.8 as discussed.
Second.
Mr. Hastings, would you call the roll?
For 8.1 through 8.8, Mr. Brady,
Yes.
Mr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mrs. Dam,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilman,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens.
Yes.
Mrs. Talarico,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Items carried.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Financial Management and Resource Services, Mrs. Dan.
Move to approve 9.1 through 9.5 and then discussion 9.6 through 9.8. I'm
Wonderful.
hopeful, Mr. Weinstein and Mr. Hastings, do you have anything to add to these discussion pieces?
Thank you, Ms. Dam. I'd just like to acknowledge Wegmans and Wawa of Oakhurst. They're donating items, a $200 gift card to Wegmans and a soft pretzels from Wawa for our preschool community resource fair. And then I'd also like to acknowledge Chick-fil-A, who's donating $75 worth of food for the Ocean Township Early Childhood Advisory Council meeting. So that's terrific. We appreciate that. And yeah, no other comments on items, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
9.8. School lunches. No change to what our students are paying.
That's-
there is.
Please answer the question, Mr. Hastings.
Yes, so 9.8 is the renewal of our food service management company contract with Sodexo. We'll be entering year 3, I believe, of 5, potentially 5. The prices reflected here are the prices that Sodexo charges us as the contractor or contractee. These do not reflect what the student prices will be. Those will be approved probably in May or June.
So as of now, no changes.
Correct.
Thank you.
And any change would be for next year.
Thank you. Mrs. Dan.
And these increases to us, we have that in the budget already, these numbers.
Yes and no, because the contract is a break-even contract with Sodexo. So Sodexo will make us whole for any losses the food service may incur.
I think I had another question. Mrs. Gilman.
Have they continued to make modifications to their food choices based on what we've discussed as a board? Do these increases, I'm wondering, do they reflect maybe some of the changes that they have made in their selections?
No, the increases reflect basically CPI, the Consumer Price Index increase. So it does not reflect any change that we may have asked or discussed with them in terms of what they're providing. However, they are and have been providing a greater variety of foods. The menus are a little bit more dynamic. There is the availability for nutritional information on the website. And we're also working hand in hand for the unit lunch at the high school next year as well. So we'll be adding staff without additional cost to us to service that program as well. So we're excited about that. We'll be getting new equipment in to help service that unit lunch concept. So we'll be doing some decorating and some improvements of the facility. So we're excited about that.
Any other questions from members of the board regarding? Yeah, and I apologize, I want to go out of order here, so we have a motion on the floor to approve 9.1 through 9.5. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Hastings, would you call the roll?
This is for 9.1 through 9.5. Mr. Brady,
Yes.
Mr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mrs. Sam,
Yes,
Mrs. Gilman,
Yes to all, recused from the baseball, wrestling, USA baseball fundraiser and the youth wrestling camp. Yes to everything else.
thank you. Ms. McGovern,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Stevens.
yes,
Mrs. Talarico
Yes.
and Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Item is carried.
Instruction, education, student, go ahead. Yeah,
can I just ask one more question?
please, go ahead.
Mr. Hastings, thank you for letting us know all those new great things going on with the food. Not to put more work, I don't know exactly the right way to go about this, but would it be possible to get a presentation of all the great things that are happening with the food? So the parents and we can all get a better understanding of all the changes that are being made. Would that be possible? I don't know if I need to put a motion in for that or.
So this is a request of the administration that the board can agree to or deny. I think maybe it'd be good for the board to kind of scope out what specifically you would like, and then the board can decide if a majority of members would like that presentation to be given to us. So to clarify, you just want an update on what is being provided to the students of the district in line with what we've received previously or additional?
Yes, and just, I think you called it the unit.
Unit lunch.
Yeah, what that entails.
So that's part of that high school redesign,
Okay.
when Mrs. Kazubo came to present on how the high school lunch would be organized
Okay,
around the schedule. I'm not sure
okay,
if you want to know more about the schedule and how the lunch will be functioning, or the food offerings.
more of the food offerings.
Right, so the unit lunch is basically going from serving kids over multiple periods to serving kids during one
Okay,
period.
it was just.
So that was the unit lunch concept.
Okay.
The food offerings are not gonna change other than the changes we're gonna request just in general. But nothing related.
Additional locations to get your lunch.
God, I thought there was
Because-
more to it than, okay,
I
understood.
think there's more to the way it's set up and structured and staffed, but not necessarily.
Right, so currently we serve lunch to a smaller number of students than we will next year. Next year, the entire school is gonna eat at the same time. So this year, students come to the cafeteria in groups. They go through the lines and sit and either sit in the cafeteria or sit in the outside sort of annex area where we have picnic tables that they could choose to sit at. Under this new schedule and new concept, everybody's gonna come. The kids have an option of eating in different places. I understand there's gonna be sort of a seniors area as well that will be outfitted. The gymnasium will open some bleachers in there as an option. The cafeteria will still be available, obviously, and we may set up a station somewhere else within the building. But we're trying to balance options for kids and places for kids to eat that are close to their lockers or classrooms or where they're gonna be at next period versus cleanliness and, keeping the debris and food trash tidy and cleaned up. So that would be sort of the main difference. Everybody's not coming to the cafeteria and just sitting in that one room.
Got it. But I apologize. I thought it was more to like the food with what you were talking about. Thank you.
So Mrs. Ham, do you feel your questions have been answered?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Wonderful, okay. Mrs. Gilman?
That sounds like quite a challenge, having everybody eat at once. So maybe when things get up and running, you can kind of give us a recap of where the kids are eating.
So we're going
In
to,
the gym, that was always
believe-
anathema to bring food in there. So it's hard for me to imagine the kids eating in there, having them clean up and then having a gym class come in. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. I believe Mrs. Kazuba made that part of her presentation
She
to
did. I
us,
just-
where it's a portion of the gym, perhaps other areas. But I certainly can get a list from, if you want to.
She
If
mentioned
that's the
library.
request.
Mr. Schneider?
Yeah, she mentioned the library too, so
Right.
there's like a bunch of different like common areas, so. It would be interesting to see how it all.
It will be
plays out.
interesting to see how it all works out. So maybe after it's up and running, an
Perfect.
update.
So would the majority of the board like that, an update after we initiate this new unit lunch?
In October and November. Yeah.
In October or November? All in favor? Can I get an aye? Okay. Mr. Hastings, would you please make a note that in October, November, you can update us on the status of the unit launch?
Absolutely.
Thank
It'll
you
be
so much.
especially entertaining.
Appreciate it.
Just have the videos of the hallway.
Of everybody.
Doing just-
Time lapse.
You have to remind me over here.
All right, moving on. Instruction, education and student activities, Mr. Dalton.
Yes, Mr. McCarthy, for this evening, motion to approve items 10-1 through 10.
Second,
Do we have any questions on 10-1 through 10-4? Go
I
ahead,
just
Mrs.
have a
Talerico.
question about the amended school calendar.
Yes.
Does that reflect the calendar committee that was put together? I was just wondering.
No, this is not next year's calendar. So this is this year's calendar. Because we did not use 2 snow days, we have 2 extra days built into the calendar, and traditionally, we have taken those days off the end of the year. So that is the only change that you're seeing on this agenda item.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for 10-1 through 10-4? Mrs. Gilman.
Just to confirm, then graduation will be held for 8th grade and seniors on the 19th.
If this is approved this
This
evening
evening.
by this board, then yes, that is correct.
Mr. Schneider, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, I thought I saw you raise your hand. Okay. No other questions? Mr. Hastings, would you call the roll?
This is for 10-1 through 10-4. Mr. Brady,
Yes.
Mr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mrs. Dam,
Yes.
Mrs. Gilman,
Yes,
Ms. McGovern,
yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Mrs. Talerico,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes,
Item carried.
thank you. Negotiations, Mrs. McGovern.
Yes, we discussed upstairs.
No need for approval tonight. We'll move on to the next meeting. We'll have a second reading of that. Thank you. Presentation of policies, Mrs. Gilman.
yes, President McCarthy, for 12.1, the first reading of revised policies that deal with tuition, fiscal planning, which is a new name for budget, and at the athletic fund,
Thank you.
collection of funds.
Any questions from the board or comments, discussion surrounding any of the policies that have been presented? Mrs. Talerico.
I do. I'm sorry, I took a bit to bring it up, but my one question is, in the original policy, it talks about bringing in the public for comment and discussion. I'm looking for it. I wrote it down before, but I don't have it right in front of me. But then the new policy doesn't discuss any of that regarding public and having their voice heard in this. I was just wondering how we're going to have that happen.
You're referring to policy
The fiscal,
6120 for
sorry.
fiscal planning?
Yes.
So again, just to clarify, this is part of the policy update the board has asked us to do of outdated policies.
Correct. So
This
that
is
was,
Strauss's new
right.
version. I'm sorry.
no, not at all. That was we had a 1990 version that was upgraded to Strauss's newer policy. And I think in terms of public comments in terms of the budget is in the form of our public meeting, which we discussed earlier when we approved the budget. And that's the primary vehicle, other than folks contacting you or asking questions of the superintendent or myself.
Any other comments or questions regarding policy? Mr. Schneider.
I do like the changes made to the fiscal planning policy. Was that from our legal requests, or is that something that we
Yeah,
did?
so just as a point of information, we have had, and this has been cycling through, we've had a large amount of policies that we identified a few years ago that were out of date, in terms of when they were last reviewed. So, sorry, not last reviewed, in accordance with Strauss Esme's updates, who is an outside agency that we utilize to update policies. So the administration is just cycling through those policies to get them up to date and up to speed. So there's no, I don't believe there's any legal input on this from other than what Strauss Esme, which is a firm that does this professionally, is doing, but no other outside support. This is just our district keeping good administrative practice and moving through things.
Yeah, so it's just modernizing our policies essentially.
Mhm.
The one on the fiscal planning is not, I like it because it includes long range planning at a very comprehensive level. So I just thought that was pretty interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider, for sharing that.
Mhm.
Any other comments or questions regarding policy? Wonderful. We'll have our second reading at our next meeting where we can vote to approve these policies. Old business. Would any members of the board like to discuss any old business? Mrs. Gilman, Mrs. McGovern, you had your hand up first.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because we brought up high school, I didn't want to talk about this inclusion. But I know since we've had a couple delayed openings, to have our staff be ready for the high school new schedule. Do you have any input on, how that's going? If people are getting excited about it, if, any sort of just.
I think I don't have something prepared, but this is what I will say. I think that with any new endeavor like this, it is daunting. And we're in a place of what will this feel like? And I can remember that when we went to block scheduling. It's a very common thing to say that, what will this feel like? I think there are absolutely members of that staff that are very excited and think that the schedule we have now needs a refresh and it's time for a redesign. So they're excited about that and also nervous about how will that feel? Suddenly, I've only had 3 classes for a very long time. Now I'm back to having 6 classes at once. So there are some things in there, but I think the trainings have been great. They have done some site visits. They are getting more comfortable with the idea. Again, this is sort of my take on the situation.
I appreciate the 2-hour delay. I think that was an innovative way to get our staff to be able to not have to give extra time or, have the students be out more time to kind of get them up to speed and ready for it. I just wanted to say, I think that whether that was Dawn's decision, I'm sure it was a collaborative decision, but I just think that was a good way to kind of open it up to try and make people feel as comfortable as they can going into the unknown.
Yeah.
So
Just so you know, when the board that began when the high school went to block scheduling, the board afforded the high school staff 4 delayed openings. Then when the intermediate school went to block scheduling, the board afforded the intermediate school staff 4 delayed openings, and it is also contractual. So whenever there's any major scheduling change like this, and an entire staff needs to redesign lesson plans, pacing guides, curricular documents, things like that, we will provide them that time because we think it is very important in order to be ready and prepared to start something new like that. So
thanks. I appreciate you letting me put you on the spot. Sorry.
no problem.
Any other old business from members of the board? Mrs. Gilman?
You mentioned our staff member, Megan Edison. The latest issue of Community Magazine features her, and Community has been featuring several each month. One of our staff members is recognized, but she was featured, and so kudos to her, as well as our Innovation Night. There was a nice
I
article
was just
about
gonna
that.
say, there's another
well.
item in there featured, yes.
That was very nice.
Good.
And a thank you to Mr. Hastings, because I saw Little Shop of Horrors at the high school last Friday. That was the spring production, and it was fantastic. And for a while, I wasn't sure it was going to happen. So whatever lighting and audio that you provided, I know it was kind of makeshift to just, until we get things repaired. No one would have known. No one, if we didn't know on the inside that it was, put together lighting and audio. They did a fantastic job. So thank you.
Well, thank you. But kudos to our staff at the high school and
Yes.
to our maintenance and custodial folks as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So hopefully that will be completed, the new lighting and
Yes, so
audio.
most of the non-electric repairs have been done. Next week, they'll replace the wood paneling on the outside, and that should take care of most of the non-sound, non-lighting repairs. We challenged the appraisal for the replacement costs of some of the sound and light equipment. So we're looking at that, and we're waiting on a second opinion, if you will, from the insurance carrier in terms of what they're going to offer in terms of a settlement. And we are looking at perhaps using some of our maintenance reserve to upgrade at the same time. So to combine some of the funds that we get from the carrier as well as some maintenance reserve to do some upgrades. So
Great. So it's pretty packed auditorium on Friday night, so
it's great to hear.
it was good. It was fun.
Any other old business from members of the board? Any new business? Mr. Schneider?
Mr. McCarthy, I'm not sure where this exactly fits, but I wanted to bring this to our attention. I think with all the challenges we have with our fiscal consideration to try to, budget our district's needs and against the tax levies, I think if we have an opportunity to maybe assess where the facility fees are. I'm not exactly sure how often that is. I'm not exactly sure if it's going to warrant any additional changes, but something I think that it comes up a lot. If we could just take a look at it, see if there's any opportunities there. Maybe we don't do anything, but not exactly sure if it's a motion or something that we could do.
So is your request specifically to just have a larger presentation on what our facility fees are and just to clarify what
Or
we're
even
looking
like a
for?
working session where we could go through the fees, see how much they, see how material they are, see if there's any changes we want to make, because I'm not sure. We see CPI increases, there's changes constantly and it costs. Maybe it's time to reassess our fee structure and see if there's anything we want to change to it. So I'm not exactly sure if it's a presentation versus like an audit working session.
I'm not sure that I totally understand what you're requesting, so I just want to make sure that I do before I direct it. So when you say facility fees, are you talking about just our utility costs and any fees associated with running the buildings? Oh, okay, okay, our use of facility fees, okay. And is that something that you just want us to evaluate as a board?
As a board, yeah. See if there's any changes, but. So I've come up with.
Like, look at the programs and what we've charged them over the past 5 years and see
See
if
if there's
we've
anything we
gone
want
up
to
with.
change.
Yeah.
So that request can be brought to the board at any point, and the board can decide if we would like to reevaluate our facility fees. So we have someone on the board who would like to consider a reevaluation of our use of facility fees by members of the district who are using our fields and our schools and things like that, correct?
The district and outside of the district, yes. Yeah, the whole guy.
Outside of the district, meaning our use of fields elsewhere?
No, anyone that's using our fields at all.
Yeah, okay, sorry, thank you for clarifying. Do we have anyone in the board who would like to speak against an evaluation of that?
I just had a question. Is
Stevens, go ahead.
is this something that substantially impacts the district budget?
I would say substantially,
Mhm.
but if I could offer, we're continuing to review our policies as we go through. Facility fees are in the 7,000s. So that would be potentially a policy and regulation that we would review at that time. So perhaps we could fold that into our regular review, and in the meantime, we can do some comparables across other districts. I know my counterparts in other districts look at this on occasion as well, so I can see if there's information out there that's current in terms of what other districts charge for use of facilities.
Saying we're getting close because we're at the 6,000.
Right,
Yeah.
it's coming up, it's a
Yeah,
good
it's coming
time.
up.
That's what I said, it's
That
coming.
might be.
I
a
was
good
gonna say, it's
time to discuss
it's
that.
better through policy to discuss it that way, I don't know.
Mrs. Talarico, you had a comment?
I do have a comment. So 2 years ago, the finance committee met and discussed all of this. Where are the results from that? I wasn't on it then.
Go ahead, Mrs. McGovern.
The results we had a change of staff at that helm of doing things. Some things didn't get put in, some things did. We were kind of at a standstill of things because I think there's a certain point when you discuss this policy that you realize that the people that are using our fields are our taxpayers that are paying in other ways and our own students and our own kids. So it has been in years, I've been on it many times. It's been in years past, and I know people will say, well, I would pay X amount of dollars to whatever club that then puts this on. And many people have been on many sides of it where you pay X amount of dollars, but if you're going, like that, if the fees go up too much, that then the fees then go back to the parents who are also parents of our kids that are also taxpayers already. So that's one reason why it hasn't gone up very much. But the exact conversation that we had and some of the changes that were going to be possibly made that where we got, they stopped with a former employee who left the district and they were not left behind or it left. It stopped being talked about because someone was no longer here where the discussion had taken place. And that's where it stopped. And it didn't get picked up by this board because there were conversations about picking it back up. And there were conversations I'm not against bringing it up and talking about it, but I'm also somebody who's also not against raising too much for our own children and our own students. And I'm also somebody who sees other opportunities of bringing outside groups come in that our fees are actually high sometimes in some cases. Not in all, I'm not saying everywhere, but there are some things that I think we lose because they call our district and ask for fees, and then they call a district neighboring us and their fees are, thousands of dollars less than ours, and so they'll go there. So I think that there's always a balance that you have to keep on it, but I think that, Ms. Weldon, Mr. Hastings are correct that when the policy comes, when it gets within, if it's close, if it's not gonna, like, if you guys are able to say, well, it's based on it, it's not gonna be up until next October or a year from now, then maybe we say, okay, we want to bring it up earlier. I would think that if you're going to do it, if you're going to bring it up, that it needs to be brought up so that it's in place for the August, September. Like, if we're thinking about that, then we have to tell people that we've already approved. I'm just saying that there's a possibility it could change. I don't know if when the approval goes out, it says there could be changes to these fees after approval. Like, we've already approved things through next December. So to say things are going to change before people that have already been approved on whatever fees they are, I don't know. So what we had done in the past at one point was say, the board in the coming months is going to speak about this. If there are changes made before your use, your fee may go up. We've put that was in the document somewhere, so people knew. I don't know if it's on the document still. I haven't looked at it in a while. Or if we even want to put that on the document, but my personal opinion is if you're going to do it, that you do it before a season starts. Or before approving certain seasons.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. Mr. Dalton.
So listening to everyone, this is always a complicated matter, right? So I'm hearing questions. And one of the questions I'm hearing is what is the impact on this on our budget, right? Like, if we're going to get into a deep discussion on this, I think it would be helpful when we get there. And I say when we get there, that we understand how much we're bringing in, how much it's costing us and things like that. I do think there's a philosophical issue here that needs to be discussed, because when you look at policy and regulation 7510, it gets into the different types of users and what we as a board might feel our philosophy is around who are we charging and how are we charging them. So, I respect that when we get to that policy, we look at that. My suggestion, I feel like a teacher now, is that we all take a good look at both policy and regulation 7510 in advance of that, because it is a little bit longer. And it was modified. The policy was modified in January of 22, and the regulation was modified in March of 20. It's one of those things that you have to really think about the groups, their ability to raise funds, and who's ultimately paying for it is something that we need to consider. That said, do we have rising costs, right? I know some of the school districts that I saw in the news this week had exorbitant increases in their utilities costs. And if we're all watching the news in New Jersey, both electric and gas rates have been severely impacted for homeowners and school districts. So I think, it's going to be, in my estimation, a longer conversation, because I think we need to understand the history of what are we bringing in and what are we paying out and our costs? And then what is our philosophy when we look at these different classes of users? They're usually referred to as different classes, nonprofits and things, of that nature. But these are very long and need a lot of reading and thought.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. So I believe what I'm hearing from the board is a request for a presentation of total impact to the budget of facility fees currently, as well as comparables with other districts. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that a good synthesis of what we'd like to see? Is there anything that the board would like to add to those two items that I brought up?
Just to add to that, maybe it's included in it, it's just what Mr. Dalton said. So where we understand the level of the services. That's in the policy.
It's all in the policy.
All of the fees associated with it.
It's in the regulation.
Yeah.
All of that information is in there.
So current policy will be read by all board members. They can review that at their leisure. but the additional request is what the total impact is in relation to our annual budget, as well as a comparable to other districts when possible of equal size. Additional comments or questions, Mrs. Talrico?
I just want to know if we can get that information from 2 years ago, because that's really what they were looking at.
So either way, we can work on what we have in front of us right now. I think we can get this information right now. I don't know that what happened 2 years ago is very much pertinent, and we would have to look at these things anyway because of how much has changed.
Okay.
Unless, is there something that I'm missing that whatever went on 2 years ago would?
Well, there were multiple meetings, is what I'm saying, and at that time, when that person is no longer here, we were about to get a
Do
presentation.
you know if it was on the agenda? If there
No.
was anything
I
shared?
don't know.
It was never on the agenda and it was in emails that were not,
Okay.
committee didn't have.
Understand.
Mr. Dalton, did you have an additional thing to the 2 items that I presented?
No, the only thing I would say is, out of respect to the administration, we need to get through this year's budget before we.
Understood. Are there any additional items that people would like to see regarding those things?
I don't know about additional items, Mr. McCarthy, but it always troubles me when we see everything going up, utilities, food costs, that we would, as Ms. McGovern say, especially for our town people and our town groups, pass this along to them. But evaluating the policy and regulation and looking at companies or whatever that use our facility that maybe come from outside, I would certainly think that would be worthy of a second look. But for our current taxpayers and their use of our buildings, I think we need to be very cautious moving forward.
So once again, I want to put the question out very clearly to the board. If we are asking for information, we can add comment however we would like. Are there any additional items aside from a total impact to budget and comparable to other districts that we would like to see informationally from our district before making any decisions regarding this? Is there anything additional that the board would like to see?
I would say no, there isn't anything additional, and I agree that we need to start with the policy revision before we make any other further
Okay.
decisions.
Thank you,
Um,
Ms. Stevens. And anything else that the board would want to see? Can we just focus on that point very quickly? Informationally? No. Okay, thank you.
thought I-
Mr. Hastings,
Another
how much time would you need? Okay, go ahead. Yes,
I
please.
thought I heard an ask for a list of everything we've approved over the last year or so. Like the type of users.
Did we say that?
I did not hear that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Mr. Hastings, how long do you think it would take you to gain that information?
I think we could perhaps provide something at the May meeting.
At the May meeting?
Yeah.
Would that give you enough time to worry about your budget currently? Or would you like to extend that potentially to the first meeting or second meeting of June?
I think June, that would be safe,
Okay,
depending on what the state decides to do with the budget. As we know, last year,
I think that's. a
we
good
passed our
idea.
budget at the end of April, and then all of a sudden there was a last minute change, so.
Well
Yes,
said.
June would buy us a little extra time.
Okay, is the board okay with that time frame? With us reviewing this
Sure.
in one of the June meetings?
Yes.
Yes.
Thumbs up from everybody? Okay, wonderful. And we all as a majority would like to see this information. Yes? Anyone opposed? No, okay. So that will give us opposed?
No,
Okay.
not really, just.
So that will give us an
Common sense.
opportunity as a board to debate and discuss this topic at that time. We can bring it, put it forward on the agenda and have a deliberate approach to this. I would ask that all board members review this policy between now and that time period. If there are any specific questions that you have regarding that policy, you can direct that to the administration, okay, for them to clarify, and we will go from there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Good. Any other comments at all about anything regarding this topic that was brought up tonight? Okay. Any other new business from the board?
I just have a comment for
Stevens.
consideration. I've only been on the board for 4 months. However, during our work meeting and our regular monthly meeting, starting our regular monthly meeting at 8 p.m. It's so wonderful to see how many awards that our staff are receiving, that our students are receiving. But I'd be negligent in not saying that I'm noticing there are little students that are here at 8 p.m. It seems to be fairly late for some of them to be here and receiving awards at 8:30. 6:30. So I realize the schedule is what it is for this year, but maybe perhaps next year when we're redoing the schedule, we can consider as a board, perhaps moving the meeting up from our executive session to 6:30 to 6 PM to try to get some of those elementary awards, for the little ones out and done so that those kids can go home. And it's just something for consideration in the future.
Would anyone from the board like to comment on that topic?
I think it's worth considering because it's true that it could be a late night for many of our younger students that come in for spelling bee awards or whatever awards they're getting. I have no problem with pushing things back half an hour. I'm not sure people who commute or have a longer workday
Sure.
might be able to, but it's something that we certainly should consider going forward.
Any other comments? Wonderful. Any other new business for the board? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.